So hitting record. All right, so here we are back again. Um, do you have another topic that you wanted to throw out for the OS world? I'm trying to think. I had one the other day. Let's see. It probably had to do with recent work stuff. What have I run into lately that was a pain or spent a lot of time on?
I mean, the only real pain point that I've been dealing with right now is trying to communicate with those third party vendors to figure out how that application works. I've actually finally gotten a hold of two different people, but that took a week of just trial and error with different sites, trying to reach out to people. That was not fun. And even now, uh, it sounds like there's an application running underneath the application and an agent on another machine that is totally unseen by anyone. So it's like this is just becoming it's a good thing the box hasn't died because this company would not be in business.
Yeah, those are fun. I've run into a few of those where they've got like the integration is not really an integration. It's like they've got a machine, they've got a, and we did this at the one company I was at recently, is they would do, you would install on their server a little, service that it was actually going in and pulling the data. And then it would go and talk out to another little box that would then pull some data in and then move it around and then transfer it all and do all this stuff. So they would call it an integration, and it was in a sense, but it was like, you could integrate with us if you installed our software on both your machine and then the target machine, because it was really, your integration was just really just telling those two things how to work. So it wasn't really you were building your own. It was just, we had to build it, which meant it had to be and it was all hard coded and all that kind of fun stuff. So it was just fun times all around. What have I been working on? And trying to think what I came up with. I don't want to spend too much time thinking about stuff, but I'm sure we can figure out something fun. Oh, I want to do something along the lines of, I know we talked about like um, learning a language and stuff, or like single language versus multiple languages. We covered that one.
What?
All right. I'm
Go
thinking
ahead.
about just generic being a better developer is some of the, talk a little bit about some tips and tricks and stuff like that to like speed up the process. Um, Particularly just the various things we know. And some of it, a lot of it's quick and dirty and maybe a little bit, it's not underhanded, but probably not the best approach, but at least a way to get stuff done. Do you have an idea? Because you were, it sounded like I sort of cut off a suggestion, maybe.
Well, I like that one. The other one I was thinking of is working with or building teams. So, like you've gone through and you've built your company, you've hired some people and things of that nature. I don't think we've really touched on as you're building your business when to or how to hire people, how to find that talent, things of that nature. That might be another one, or another topic too.
That may be a good season, would be more like a team focused season and talk about some of those kinds of things. How do you build a team and maintain a team, maintain a team, training and growth and all of that stuff. So that's actually a pretty cool little seasonal topic. I think is maybe we shift gears and do like the team based approach for a season. That'd be sort of cool. The
That could be
teams,
a
not
season.
Microsoft teams season. Yeah, that's excellent because we haven't spent as much time. We've talked about here and there, but never really spent much real time on that and how that goes.
I think we got three or four left of this one, and then we're in the next season. So
Yeah, we can always. I mean, it's whatever we pick it to be. So if we wanted to do 75 episodes in a season again, we could. It just felt weird going away, going into what's normally, normally it's about once a quarter. I think I was into I think it was like a year and a half to go through that season. And so it's just like, it was, but there's a lot of good stuff. And then I just continued. Really, I just finally was like, I'm going to call it a season. And then just boom, just went right into the other because that's like 140 straight episodes of interviews, something like that. So it was just way beyond what I expected it would be. Okay. Let's do we'll talk shortcuts and stuff like that. And I think that's probably not a bad way to go with this. And I'll throw some stuff out there, and then you can either, complain about mine or throw your own into there, or both. Well, hello and welcome back. We are continuing our season 21 of the Building Better Developers Developreneur podcast, where we're here to just help actually ourselves and you become better developers. With ourselves, it's sort of just, bouncing ideas off, thinking through what we've learned and making sure that we, catalog it a little bit. For yourselves, hopefully we're, helping to share, either our successes and even our failures so that you can lean more towards the successes and have less failures of your own and fail in new and unique ways, because that's what developers do best. I am Rob Broadhead. I'm one of the founders of Developreneur. On the other side, you are?
It's Mike Mullins, another co-founder of Developreneur and founder of Envision QA.
And so you notice I'm like turning the fire up a little bit. I'm not even helping him with his introduction now. So if he forgets his name, that's on him, not on me. I just I'm pushing him, making him a better developer. Because if you know your name, you're a better developer. That being said, let's get into this episode. This episode, I want to talk about shortcuts and things that we can do to help ourselves be more productive and a better developer. We do this a lot for others. This is part of our benefit, our value, is that we're coming in and looking at processes and systems and finding ways to automate and to improve and to performance tuning and all of that stuff. And maybe like the plumber that's got a leaky faucet at home, I wonder how often we do that for ourselves. If you're like me, not enough. If you're more like me, then you at least do regularly take an inventory and say, hey, here's some things I can do. Much like what we do for our customers. If we see a customer, if we're working at a company, and we see somebody doing something that it just pains us to watch them do it. Either they do it over and over and over again, and it could easily be automated, or it takes forever. And there's a way that maybe we could automate that to allow them to walk away or to speed up the process, to do performance tuning and things of that nature. Now, I think the easiest way to get into helping yourself is look at, just like we do with our customers, look at what you do on a daily basis. What are some of the things, like the repetitive tasks that you do? And then what's some opportunities then, because they all basically are, what are some opportunities to improve those? Now, they can be things that vary from, and we've talked about this before, like on the email side of stuff, the app stuff. Emails, if you don't use filters, labels, rules of some sort, start today. Just if you pick one, if you just go in, look at your inbox, and you say, I could apply a rule to 2 emails that would save me time on those. And that could be like organizing them, replying to them, whatever it is. Just, you can do this in probably 5-10 minutes a day. Just do it for a while. The next thing you know, your email's just going to disappear. You're going to be in a lot better shape. I've preached this before. I will preach it again right now, is that you should do that. But on the development side, because we've talked a little bit about your processes and stuff like that, but think more about your development side. What do you typically do on a day when you develop? Well, what are some of the things that most developers are going to run into? Is there some sort of status reporting that they do every day, whether it's setting up for a stand-up or at the end of the day, there's some sort of thing like that they're doing. That status reporting may also be, heaven forbid, putting useful comments on your code commits and things of that nature, which is another one. We commit code, or should be committing code, fairly regularly. That includes maybe working with version control. So maybe you need to you look at things like maybe you're creating branches on a regular basis. If you have a branch for every task, every ticket, and you're working multiple tickets a day, then you could be easily creating multiple branches per day. Merging. everybody would love to automate merging as much as possible. Some of it's builds. It may be just, maybe you're compiling code. Maybe you're having to copy code out to a dev server or something like that. If you don't have, you may have, CI/CD, you may have like pipelines and all that kind of stuff in place. But if you don't, then maybe you should build some, or maybe you could use some scripting to help you out with that. Particularly, I find this early on when I get a new customer and I've got a new project, if it's and I'm talking like brand new. So I'm not taking somebody else's stuff on, because although even then, if I'm taking somebody else's stuff on and they've built these things out, awesome. I'm going to use whatever tools they have for build process stuff. For myself, if I make something new, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to have a SQL. If it's a database thing at all, I'm going to have a SQL script that's like, how do I create my basic users, create basic tables, stuff like that. Depending on what the app is, I may, or the environment, that may be part of it. Is it maybe does some of that stuff for me, but there's always that foundational stuff you have to add. I'm almost always going to build something. I've got a build.xml Ant script that I have used, tweaked, modified over the years many, many times. And it basically gives me it's with a single Ant command. I've got things like being able to clone stuff out of Git real easy, copy, commit stuff into Git and pull it back out, copy it out to a server somewhere, package it all up into a nice little tarball and throw it somewhere. All of those kinds of things that typically is not tough as a developer. It's like, I'm going to type out 5 or 6 commands maybe, but depending on what your directory structure is and stuff like that, it may take you 15 or 20 seconds. But if you're running it several times a day, it's less prone to error. It's going to be a little faster to do it. And that's what we're looking for these kinds of tools. And before I toss it over, Mike, I'll suggest things like Ant, or you can use some of the more, the nicer tools like Maven and things like that. You can have some tasks that are built into there. You can also use go old school with Unix. You can use sed and awk and some of those kinds of things. If you're in Windows, you can use power scripting and batch stuff. Make use of these things. Shell scripts, if you're on any Unix environment, shell scripts, make use of these things because it will speed you up and it will save you, particularly when you're doing things like IP addresses and server names and file paths and all that kind of stuff. You're like, did I put it on this level or did I put it over there? Was that a 3 or a 2 at the end of the IP address? And also just the typos when you're typing it. Just those simple things. You're probably going to skip it, but it is one of the things you could probably sit down in 5 or 10 minutes, do it, and then it's done. And now you've got it and you're ready to go. So now I'm going to do it and be done and toss it over to Michael and see, what are your thoughts on these and where do you want to go in this conversation?
So I want to add on to your shell script comment there for a second. So one of the things that I constantly run into is every time I come into a new environment, a new machine or a new company, and I have to set up a new development environment, the first thing typically you run into is, what freaking compiler do I need? If you're dealing with Java, is it Java 8, Java 9, Java 10, Java 12? Do you have multiple environments? So creating a interactive shell script is actually even more fun because you can write a shell script, for instance, for Java, that covers all the flavors of Java, and you can even set it up to install the versions of Java you need for your particular machine, set up your environment, and then boom, you're done. It's like next time you're at a terminal or a command line, instead of setting up your system environment, you can just run the shell script and say, set Java environment or set Java version and pick the version number, and boom, you're done. Your entire environment's configured, set up, ready to go. Following that into your code. So one of the tips I want to talk about is more kind of clean code or those utility files as we're writing code. So like Rob mentioned, he creates Ant scripts to do the builds, to customize his environments. The other thing you can do is, as you're writing the code, make sure you use tools like SonarLint, where as you're writing the code, it'll say, oh, hey, this may be a potential issue. The other thing is, as you start seeing repetitive tasks, make sure you pull those out and put them in the correct place, put them in utility files. Apache's been great at doing this for years. We have the commons libraries. You have all these string utilities. Same thing happens at the system level. Linux has a lot of command line tools just like that, where you can actually run things at the command line that will search files, they'll edit files. Look at what you're doing every day. Quickly Google, chances are there is a utility tool out there for you to do it either at the command line or within whatever development environment or language you're using. Now take that one step further. So where Rob was talking about at the beginning with the databases and writing all those SQL scripts to set up the environment, the same thing can go on the backside when you go to test your code, because chances are you're doing a lot of repetitive tests to make sure that the code you wrote works. Make sure you write unit tests to test that code. If you see yourself testing, write a freaking test that will do it. So all you have to do is push a button. Hey, it's tested. That way, 6 months from now, when you forget what you were doing to test and you're trying to remember, you just push a button. Hey, okay, this tests. This works. Move on. When you're going to web environments or mobile developments, it's even more important to take those repetitive tasks and script them. Either use things like Selenium WebDriver, Selenium IDE, Appium. Write the scripts that walk through step by step how the application is supposed to work, and then you can just run that and make sure it works, which also turns out to be a roadmap for how you should write the code. So if you start out writing the script on how it's supposed to work from a user perspective, you can then automate those tasks as you're writing the code to the script. So again, that kind of leads to the requirements. The other flip side to this is, in today's environment, make sure to utilize some AI tools like ChatGPT, Copilot, Bard, or whatever it's called these days. These tools also help you with essentially Google search. If you're stuck and you need to ask a question, try asking one of the AI tools. Chances are they'll give you some bit of information. It may be the answer, it might not be, but it might also give you an idea on what to go Google next, or ask AI some additional questions to kind of flesh out where you're trying to go or collect your thoughts on the particular problem you're working on. I had one more and it just kind of flew away. The other thing to think about too is make sure you utilize other tools for communication. We've talked about these before, but use things like Slack, Teams to communicate with your other team members and your customers. You can also take a lot of tools like Jenkins, Confluence, what's the other one? Bitbucket. You can put these plugins into Slack or into a lot of your messaging tools that will give you updates when things get done. So for your continuous integration, continuous development, these are other tools and tricks you can use to kind of cut down on constantly having to go monitor things. Something breaks, hey, it sends you a message out to either an email or to your message queue.
So two things I want to add to this is we haven't really touched on yet. One is templates. Reuse the heck out of the stuff that you use. Don't be afraid to take like your ideal status report, your ideal email, your ideal form letter for this, that, and the other, and turn it into either turn it into a template or just keep it as a template that you can copy and paste, and then just you copy it and then just fill out your information. That kind of stuff. It is amazing how much that will help you out, particularly if you've got something you're doing on a regular basis, like a weekly status report or release notes, things like that. Is have a format and a style that's all set up, prettified, and all that kind of stuff, so that you just come in, you plug in your content. Eventually, maybe you've got something that plugs the content in for you, and then you've got all of that work and polish gets to just be reused. Now, also, I want to move on before we talk about going back to like shell scripting and some of those kinds of things. You can also, this is that being a better developer, is take some of these utility moments, we'll call them, and use them as an example or an exercise to try a new language. This is where I don't know how many times I have started off new languages doing command line stuff it was utilities. When I first learned Java, way back in like literally last century, I started with some command line stuff because there were a couple of things that Java did okay, and it worked with it. It already had, I think it was from version 1. I think it already had the operating system stuff to some level involved. So I built like a little, like, directory crawler for Windows because it didn't have anything that was very good at that point. Some things like that. And then moving forward, a lot of times I'll do like things like, file movers and loggers and document parsers and things like log readers. Those are the kinds of things that are perfect for, whether you want to learn, if you want to do command line Java, or if you want to do Python, or if you want to do C# or whatever it is, because these utility tasks are going to hit the common things that you need to learn for that language, your looping structures, your we'll call collections and arrays and things like that, your logical related stuff, file input and output, potentially even keyboard input and output, or build a little GUI around it. Those sorts of things are just perfect for you to cut your teeth on a new language with a tool or an application that's actually going to be useful to you. And it's going to be sort of cool when especially if you're sort of new, it's going to be cool when you get into that interview where you say, well, I was learning to Ruby and I had this problem that I was trying to solve, or I was trying to copy some files around and then compile them. But then there was a second thing and I had to pull a log file in and blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, oh, that's pretty cool because you had a problem. I got a problem and, I'm going to solve it. Like vanilla ice the heck out of that thing. And you did it in a new language and you get to you can make sure you did comment it well built, code and all that kind of stuff. It makes it the perfect portfolio kind of application for you to use. We could go forever on this. So I'll give you some closing thoughts and we'll wrap this one up.
Yeah, so one additional thing, because you kind of made me think of this, also consider if you do a lot of repetitive tasks in your environment. Doesn't necessarily have to be your development environment, but even your operating system, like we mentioned, mail filters. Look at doing macros or write little automated tools that will do repetitive tasks for you. This also leads to our development environments, and a lot of IDEs allow us to write little scripts or macros within them that allow us to do code completion. So we can type 2 or 3 letters, hit a set of keys, and boom, there's a section of code that we would repetitively have to type a lot of text for. So if you see a lot of things that you do a lot, look at creating little templates or code completions to simplify your tasks. So you're not sitting there having to write all this boilerplate code all the time. One additional thing to that is also make sure to look at what third parties, IDE, plugins, whatever, are for your development environments that could also act as code completions or ways of simplifying or shrinking down the amount of code that you have to write.
Yeah, I agree. That was something I'd forgotten about. I used to do that all the time, and back in the day before IDEs have built a lot of this stuff, was I had a stock Java file that was just a .java file, and it had some comment stuff like a header block and a couple other pieces that was just like, it was the stuff I found myself writing all the time. So instead of a little macro, I just copy and paste, and that was where I started with. Is I go, I'd have the generic, disclaimers and all that kind of crap, and then it did all that. And particularly if when you got back when there was back when there's like a lot of shareware sites and stuff like that, there were always these little like there's readme texts and stuff like that it always made sense to have. That usually now it gets generated by a tool, but back beforehand that was. And if it's something that you haven't reached that, if it hasn't reached that maturity of whatever it is that you need, then yeah, definitely by all means do that, because it's just going to save you time, and it's something that allows you to refine it over time and get better with it. That being said, we have refined the heck out of podcasting, and yet we're still working on it. We're still trying to get better every day, just like you're trying to get better as a developer. And the best ways to do that is shoot us an email, give us some feedback, info@developreneur.com. Check us out on Facebook, check us out on LinkedIn, check us out on the developreneur.com site. You can check us out on YouTube. And if you check us out on YouTube, you'll get great bonus content like what I'm going to throw at these guys and gals just moments from now. but not for you because we're wrapping up the podcast and you're going to have to go check it out. You can go out, Developreneur, youtube.com/Developreneur. Hate to leave you that teaser, but that's how we roll sometimes. Go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time. The rest of you, I was like, I wanted to throw one extra thing in. I was like, no, this is a perfect little bonus thing. And it is, I got this originally out of working sort of like help desky type stuff. But one of the best things you can do is record yourself doing that repetitive task. So if you're installing a server, or like I did this the other day for somebody, I was setting up an Android Studio environment. It was like, okay, let's make sure that we've got, you got like this version's got to be right, this version is right, this is a version, this is a version, this is where it's at, this is where it looks like, this is how you find this value in the IDE. Use Zoom or whatever your favorite recording tool is. Record yourself doing that. And then one, you've got an awesome reference if you ever need to go back to it. Just like title it something useful and then keep that. Two, you can put it out on YouTube. You can be just like us, where we're going out there, we're doing something, and you've now got your YouTube channel. So it's like killing 2 or 3 or I don't know, a couple hundred birds with one stone. As you go in, record it. You're going to get better at it. And even if you're not, if nobody else looks at that video, at least you have that video and can use it as a reference. It's like when Michael was talking about like the little macros and stuff like that, a lot of those macros, you're the only one that's ever going to use them. But a little video like that, you can record yourself, and especially you could keep it 30, 60, 90 seconds kind of thing. Label it like, how do I log into this thing? How do I find that? Where did I put that? And if you're like me and you've got all kinds of history of like projects and various sites and all these, you can put it all out on a wiki site and stuff like that. That's awesome. But it's amazing how often I will go look at my little wiki pages and all of the little install or the login things and all that kind of stuff. And I'll be like, I remember that I could do this in this environment, and I don't remember how. I don't remember what it was that I had to do the right combination of stuff to make this work or to get here. That's the kind of stuff you're going to have with the recording. Bonus material from you?
Yeah, so following with that, so a lot of the stuff that we've done over time, and I've caught myself doing this a lot, especially if you're a Unix or a Linux user, look at your history, type history, and look at all the commands that you type. And actually, if you're in the middle of doing something, like we do this quite a bit, at least once a year, maybe more, is I typically set up a WordPress site or install something on AWS free tier. And way back when we did launching internet business, as we recorded that, I'm like, you know what? Why don't I create a shell script for that? So I went through our recordings, I went through all of our documentation and wrote a full script that literally built the entire thing from beginning to end at a push of a button, set up everything. And maybe every 6 months, every other year, I have to go and tweak it just a little bit, especially with the newer, if Linux upgrades or command changes. But you have that, and you can literally take that and go anywhere with that and say, here, click, done. It builds it and runs it. So these are a lot of those macros and shell scripts that are very beneficial and useful. And it's also, like Rob said, with SQL, you could do the same thing if you're a network administrator. You could write these shell scripts to go create users, go set up security policies. All this can be automated. All this can be create macros or little tools or applications to do this. So if you find yourself doing something repetitively, see if you can automate it. See if you can script it. Just maybe once a week or once a day, audit yourself. See what you're doing and see if anything you're doing can be streamlined.
So, wow. Yeah. History, type, grep, and then something is your friend. I don't know how often I use that as I jump on a Unix machine and I'll be like, what was that username, or what was that specific command, or what was that folder path or something like that. And I'll go look at I don't know how often I look at my history when I'm jumping on a server. That is an invaluable little golden nugget right there. Another thing that I was actually taught by DBA way back that I found to be really useful from a database point of view. Now, he would always have he had a working SQL script that he had it pulled up almost all the time. That would be the first thing he'd do is he'd pull up his SQL script. And he would work tickets because we're doing a lot of database like performance tuning and stuff like that. So if we had a ticket, he would have the ticket number and comments, and then he would have the queries that he was working on around that for that ticket. So he could really quickly go in and be like, well, how did I fix that thing? And he could go search for a ticket number and he could find the queries that he did and what he was working on. And that is definitely have something like that. Have your little, as a database person, even as a developer, have your working script. And I do this for literally for every single customer that I have. I have got a working dash customer name .sql. And as I go through and I'm doing queries, as I'm doing, whether I'm creating stuff or whether I'm troubleshooting stuff or whatever, is I've just got, it's just like the history that you would have in, on a Unix machine. These are all the different things that I've run, and I'll have notes around them and I'll have IDs and all this kind of stuff. So I can be like, how did I do that? And I can go find, I'm like, oh yeah, for that customer, I had to do that really weird, gnarly, convoluted, multi-union SQL select thing. So I can go find it and go, oh, that's right. That's how I did it. And then make that, use that again. I can reuse it. Now, it'd be nice to have something more easier to search. That's on my to-do list someday. I'll write a little app that does that. But for now, it gives me something that that is so low tech, but so valuable to be able to be like, what was that query I ran last week to get all of those customers that were, Eskimos, and be able to go grab that script and then just run it again and go, there we go. I executed it. And especially because, you'll do something like that, and a week later, your boss will be like, hey, can you do this for me? And you'll be like, yeah, I just did that last week, but now I forgot. I got to start from scratch. Instead, you can be like, give me a minute. And you go do it, and you look like you're the hero. You look awesome. Parting thoughts as we wrap this one up.
So with that also leads into a discussion we had multiple times, but a couple of videos back about building a kitchen sink application for these type of things. So if you find yourself, oh, this is a cool little utility, or, oh, like Rob said, this is a SQL script, build a little project that you can do version control on and keep track of it. Also with the SQL stuff, there are applications out there and tools like Liquid Base where you could actually build your database structure for your application in code and then version control it as you actually build out the project. So just some other things to think about.
Yeah, there's a lot of that out there. And as we started this out, Google these things, or whatever your favorite search engine is, go look for these things and you will find that there's a lot of tools out there. There's a lot of scripts out there. And if you don't find one that suits you, build your own. You're a developer. Just get out there, do your own thing. That's, like I said, and I know Michael as well, we've got lots and lots of applications that are in varying states of being built that in a lot of cases, they started because we were scratching our own itch. We had something that we wanted to do, some tasks that we were doing all the time that we're like, I need this done faster. So I'm going to build something that'll do it. And then, it may be an ugly little thing, but it does the job. And then eventually you can go back and clean it up and maybe make it commercial and maybe make a side hustle or a couple of bucks off of it. That being said, I'm not going to make any more bucks. I've been making bucks off of you anyways, unless you've been watching ads and they love you. And I don't even know if we're running ads. So we're a bad example of making a buck off of our hard work and the sweat of our brows there. But for the rest of you, go out there and have a great time. We will check you out next time. We will return. We're going to continue doing these every Tuesday, every Thursday. The podcast drops, the YouTube video, this thing drops, and we're still, I promise, we're at some point going to be getting back into like getting a couple of blogs done. I've still got like a stack of stuff that I'm going to do some of those recorded things again. We're just like, we've had a lot of stuff going on. So just be patient. We'll be back. We'll get you more content, and you'll also get stuff like this at least, twice a week, talking about the latest problems we're solving or running into, and either our solutions or at least some recommendations on tackling it when you run into the same. That being said, I'm going to say goodbye to, as the sun is going down over the ocean or whatever it is. Yeah. Check you guys out. Same time, same channel, same bat channel, same everything next time around. Have a great one, and we'll talk to you next time. if I can find the stop button there.